Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Bluegrass Jam Along is also brought to you by Token Picks, individually machined guitar and mandolin picks to bring out the best in you and your instrument.
You know, as my physical abilities diminish as I get older, the singing still, it emerges even further to the front. It pushes the singing and the songwriting especially to the front. In other words, if I can write a song and just record it so that people can hear it and experience it, I don't really have to perform it as much. I'm not going to be around forever, but if I can get some good songs and put them out there, that's the best use of my time.
Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey there everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along, or if you are new here, which it seems like quite a few people are because we've had a big spike in downloads over the past few days, then welcome, good to have you here. My guest on the podcast this week is Tim O'Brien, and this is a really interesting conversation. I am a big Tim O'Brien fan, as I know a lot of you are. One of my favourite mandolin players, one of my favourite singers, but also one of my favourite songwriters, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Tim has a new songbook out called, unsurprisingly, the Tim O'Brien Songbook, and it's full of like classic songs of Tim, some old stuff, some new stuff, some stuff in the middle. 40 songs handpicked by Tim, with the melodies written out, with chords written out, Nashville number charts, and some stuff from Tim about writing and singing, some sort of thoughts on the process and all that kind of. It's a really fascinating thing, and a really just fun opportunity for me to chat to Tim about his kind of career as a songwriter, kind of how he got into writing, how he realised that songwriting was kind of one of the main things he was going to focus on, some of his favourite songs, just this whole journey he's been on. Really, really interesting conversation. You're going to hear about some of the Hot Rise songs, you're going to hear about some of the songs he's written that were big covers for other people, some of his favourite songs, and definitely some of my favourite songs. So it was a real treat for me to get to chat to Tim. Do check out the links in the show notes. I'll sort of point you in the direction of where you can go and buy this book, because it's a physical thing you can get your hands on. And also just general links to where you can go and find Tim's stuff. But that is it. I will let you enjoy this interview, because I certainly enjoyed this one. It was a real treat for me to get to do this, as I said. Here's Tim O'Brien talking about the Tim O'Brien Songbook. Tim O'Brien, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. It's a pleasure to see you as always.
Likewise. Great to see you too across the great interweb.
And we're talking about the Tim O'Brien Songbook, so I'm really interested to dig into this. And I think the obvious question is sort of, what generated the idea for putting everything together into a songbook in the first place?
Well, this has been a suggested project for a long time, and I kept writing songs, and I kept thinking, well, maybe someday I'll do this, and it never really got started until 2 years ago when Randy Barrett, who was the spearhead behind the Ben Eldridge banjo book, came to me and said, "Do you want to do a songbook?" And I said, "Yeah, with you, I think it'd be a good project. It's probably a good time." And so over the past 2 years, I've been assembling it, sort of figuring out which songs and learning. I learned how to write the songs on Sibelius, so there's the songs are transcribed on the staff for people that like that, and it was took a while. It was I think it's been an interesting process, and I hope it's worthwhile.
Well, it must be interesting to be asked to look back through your own catalogue in that way, because it's probably not often you get asked to do something like that.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I kind of do it from time to time, like when I'm thinking about, rehearsing a band, and I'll say, well, let's reach back and try some older songs and that kind of thing. Or if I was playing reunion shows with Hot Rise, I'd certainly do a lot of Hot Rise material. and that would sort of satisfy that urge. But it was really interesting to look back and say, well, which ones get included, because I couldn't really include them all, and it was kind of it's a big, there's 40 songs. It was kind of 30 seemed like too few, and 40 seems on the verge of too many. So, but there's an awful lot I left out that I kind of really like, and so it was an interesting project, interesting criteria, or a way of trying to figure out which songs went in the book and which were left out. It's kind of the ones that got recorded by others. I chose those for sure, and the ones that Kathy Mattea recorded and released in the country music marketplace were kind of formative, and sort of they were the fact that she recorded them and I started making money off those was a new thing for me, and it kind of made me sit up and pay more attention to writing. So Garth Brooks, Nickel Creek, Newgrass Revival, those were seldom seen. Those are, I don't have that many covers, but I've had some significant ones, and I paid tribute to those influences and help. They were definitely things that pushed me into writing more, and then it's just kind of what I liked about the songs and which ones I feel like maybe translate the most. I put the songs in sequence in the book, kind of starting with stuff that was recorded by Hot Rise early on, and then stuff that I wrote in the coming years, and there's a few from the most recent project that I recorded with Jan. So it's kind of it's already obsolete. There's a lot of new songs, and a lot of them I feel like could have been in there, but people have never heard them. It's an interesting thing to think about how the book will be used, because I think there's a lot of people that want the songs, they want the lyrics down in a book so they can just kind of read them and kind of play them. And a lot of people would maybe just want the chord names above the words of the lyrics and just kind of play along to the recordings and that kind of thing. But I tried to make it so that they could be transposed by putting numbers above the words, numbered chords, usually Nashville number system for the lyric sheets. And but then if you really want to know how the melody goes, you can read them on the page, on the staff.
Well, it's a really interesting one, because there's such an important thing to sing a song in the key that suits your voice, but you don't often see songbooks with the Nashville number system, but it would make absolute sense to do that. Well,
Pete Wernick was really helpful with, trying to troubleshoot this project, because he'd done a Bluegrass Songbook, and he did the thing with tab. He did a tablature for banjo and guitar, like using the fourth, third, and second strings, which were common tuning, and put the melody in tab. But then I think he also put numbers. I'm not sure if he put numbers on there, but he said, he's done another songbook since then for a bluegrass project in North Carolina, youth musicians project. I can't remember the name of it, but he put a new book together with them and used the number system, and thought that was really important. And it's I hope it's helpful. I hope that people understand that. It's something to learn. If you don't know it, then it's a good bit of knowledge to have.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you sort of touch on some of this. There's also, alongside the kind of songs themselves, there's some thoughts from you on both songwriting and singing, and that, the point about finding the right key is one of the things that you make very clearly in the book.
Yeah. Sometimes there's some instances where I maybe recorded the song in a wrong key, so I corrected that over the years. Like Brother Wind, I recorded it in G, and then I found that it felt better in a lower key, and ended up recording it again in F. But in each case, there was a recorded version that I took the transcription from. So people can use that as the guide. What's funny about the transcription process is that I realized that my singing's not that disciplined. I never, in often cases, I didn't sing the same song, the song once the same way. I didn't even keep the melody that I had in my head clear. It kind of, there's a lot of variation. It's like a jazz singer or something. I guess I have influenced by that kind of singing, improvising as I sing with the melody and the rhythm of it too. And at times I transcribe something closer to what I imagine the melody to be as opposed to what I actually sang on the recording. Because sometimes the recordings didn't really match up to what I imagined the melody was to be. When I got to where I actually transcribed it, I said, "Why did I sing it that way?" So it's a funny thing. I didn't,
and presumably
kind of how undisciplined I am, kind of.
Oh, but presumably you've also, these songs like have lived and changed a bit with you over the years. Songs are very rarely fixed as a definite thing.
Yeah, they definitely are a living, breathing thing. And when somebody like Kathy Mattea or Garth Brooks sings your song, they change it a little bit to fit themselves. And that's, I think, totally legitimate. I feel like it's part of the thing. And the songs, if they live on at all, I feel like it's a great flattering thing for me. But yeah, they don't really, it's funny, like you write the songs, and a lot of songwriters will say this, once you write them, and particularly after you record them and put them out there, it's kind of, they're on their own. You can try to worry about them. They're kind of like your kids that have left the house finally, and you got to let them be what they'll be. And if they succeed, it's great. And you hope the best for them, and you hope that they live on and people enjoy them and like them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really funny just sort of talking about songs in that way, because one of the songs that's in this book, and it is one of the songs that is well known by people from another version, is When You Come Back Down. And I saw you sing that song in London several years ago, and you introduced it by saying it was written about one of your kids at the point they were about to leave home and go to college. And yet the version people know is the Nickel Creek version, probably sung by somebody about the same age as your kid that was about to leave for good. So different people singing those songs. I can only sing them. You were singing it as a father, like Chris Thiele was probably singing it as from a different frame of mind,
Yeah, I think what's interesting is the interpretation is up to the singer and also to the listener. The singer has to. I imagine it's best if the singer believes in the lyric and can understand and put their own experience into the. Sorry, that's my dog. That's my dog Nellie Kane, by the way.
Excellent.
But the singer would, presumably put their own self into the lyric and feel like it was something that they identified with. We all kind of act a little bit on stage, I think. We put our best selves forward, A lot of performers are shy people who kind of organize things so that they look the best when they get out in front of people. But you definitely want to be able to identify with it. But how you identify with it is up to you, I think, and up to the performer. And the same with the audience. You just don't know. I remember Joni Mitchell, read an interview with her where she said that she wrote Both Sides Now is kind of about giving her child up for adoption. And
wow.
She said, I wrote like 30 verses or something. I had all these verses and I basically trimmed it down until none of that was specific in the lyric. And she said then, when the record came out and people started hearing it, I got all these notices from people and talked to people who had heard the song and thought, man, I gave up my child for adoption, and really identified with this song. And she tried not to make that audible or readable in the song, and yet it came through anyway. So it's up to the listener and the performer to interpret it how they like, but some things just are kind of mysteriously there, kind of embedded in the mood of a thing.
Yeah, and well, it's one of the glorious things about art is that you do sort of complete it yourself in some form by experiencing it. Like as a listener, whatever, as somebody watches a piece of theatre, watches a film, listens to a song, you do get to choose what it means to you, and you're not wrong. It might be nothing to do with what the person who wrote it intended it to be, but you take on some meaning when you experience them, don't they?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing about it, and the idea that people are interested in this is amazing. Yes, people love stories, and they kind of need stories, and it's kind of like myth is a way for people to sort of understand. Like Joseph Campbell, I think, said that myth is useful when something happens, something major event in your life. You have a question about it, and myths will say, "Well, here's how it plays out in myth," and you can sort of put yourself on that template and see if it agrees with it. The stories are kind of like that. They're and songs are pretty much often stories, and people really seem to really hunger for stories. It's music is mysterious on its own without any lyrics, and it sort of tells a story somehow on its own, and it's and like you say, it's up for the listener's interpretation. But when you add the lyrics, it has another power to it, and there's something about that combination that's kind of liberating, and kind of it becomes more than either one. They kind of lean on each other, and they kind of meld together, and it's funny how a lyric will suggest music, and music will suggest a lyric sometimes. It's another phenomenon that's kind of amazing to me.
Well, it's funny you're talking about stories and the stories that come out of song. And just talking again about when you come back down, the experience of hearing you sing that song at a little club called the Green Note in Camden years ago, and telling that story about it being about one of your kids. And then several years later, saw Sierra Hull play in London, and she sang a song called Ceiling to the Ground, which is about her dad lifting her up really high as a kid and going, "Look, it's not that scary. I've got you. And then her, like as a young adult later on in life, kind of looking back on that moment and going, "Oh, my dad had me and everything's all right because my dad has still got me." And it felt like a beautiful bookend of two views of the same story. One of the dad going, "I've got you," and one of the kid going, "I know." And they're two totally separate songs, unconnected, not written in response to each other. But there's that lovely one song almost finishes the other, if you know what I mean.
Well, what's interesting too is the songs, the issues of a human life there's only so many situations that you cover as a writer, I think, as a novelist or as a poet or whatever. But everybody's got their own little angle on it that's slightly different. And, you worry about, writing, repeating somebody else's idea. I don't think you really can. You sort of are going to put your own spin on it. And, as a songwriter, I kind of had to learn to trust myself that what I'm putting down and what feels right probably is right. And, it's a kind of a long process of getting comfortable with that and feeling sure, and realizing when a song is a song and when it's just kind of an exercise that you can leave off to the side and keep working on something else.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I love a song in the same way that I love a short story, is it doesn't have the time like a novel or a movie to sort of lay out a thesis or tell you something. All it does is it has a few minutes to turn your head and go, look at this thing over here. And then for you to turn your head back to your normal life, having seen something through somebody else's eyes just for a few minutes. And that's sort of the power of it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And, that's what's great. The song is very short, and if it doesn't grab you, it won't take long. You can try another one. And, but then when you start assembling a group of 40 songs, you kind of know, I'm still asking myself, what does this mean? Is this something for my fans and for fans of music and for people who want to learn about the kind of music I play, or is it really for me? The answer is kind of both. And just like every recording I've ever made, I realized after a while that I did them for my own satisfaction as much as for anything else. And I recorded songs so that I would have something that I could sing, and it gave me the impetus to learn the song and learn to sing it well and to arrange it up to my best of my abilities. And same thing with a song, you kind of shape it the best you can. But, then getting this whole group of songs together is kind of like, it's another exercise in that, like saying, well, I can look at this and say, okay, I've done a lot of stuff here, and I'm proud of a lot of it, and I could stand by this. And it, something like you practice a song so that you can sing it on stage. You record it the best way you can so that you can present it on a recording as well as on stage. You kind of try to replicate that. And the same thing with this repertoire becomes my best effort at defining what my music is and who I am really through the music.
In the process of kind of going back over a couple of years and picking these songs, did you sort of spot any themes or ideas like in that as a collected body of work that had sort of you hadn't realised before? Because I think all writers have some sort of central kind of bucket of themes they return to. We'll be right back with you just after this. The long-awaited Hill Country series from Collins Guitars represents a new voice in their acoustic lineup. Rooted deep in the bluegrass world, these new Dreadnought and OM models feature a strong fundamental tone with a dry, warm and woody character that's sure to catch the attention of players who hold the vintage instruments of the 30s in their highest regard. Watch world-class pickers Jake Workman, Kenny Smith and Bob Minner perform with new Hill Country instruments on the Collins Guitars YouTube channel, and learn more at collinsguitars.com. Founded in Petaluma, California, and born of a love for music, Token has developed a unique approach to making picks. Individually machined from premium materials like Ultem, Peak, and compression moulded Taulon, Token picks are designed to bring clarity, speed, and tone to your playing. Used by top artists like Chris Eldridge, Jake Workman, Andy Falco, and Trey Hensley, Token picks are fast becoming a bluegrass favourite. Follow on Instagram at TokenMade and learn more at tokenmade.com.
Well, I think there's a lot of it is sort of we're all in this together kind of a thing. Songs like Another Day or Restless Spirit. I'm just looking at the titles here.
I mean, Cup of Sugar falls into that very clearly.
Yeah, One Girl Cried is like a guy singing and he's lonesome and the listener's lonesome and they don't know they're each lonesome and somehow they maybe meet and something happens and it works out. But it's like life is random, but we can sort of hope that things will work out. Hold to a Dream is like that. I don't know, there's a lot of that. And, love as a concept kind of drives a lot of it. There's not a lot of love songs like you'd hear on a country station, but I think a lot of love runs through these. Crooked Road, like that song is kind of like defining who I am as a musician and what musicians do. And, what, it's like I'm just trying to mirror what my life is like. But, theme-wise, they're all fairly personal. You mentioned the thing about when you come back down, Chris Seeley probably thought of it one way and I think of it another way. There's one song called Letter in the Mail, and that one's, I wrote it with John Hadley. He was thinking about his kids who are grown up and moved far away. And I was thinking about my dad. I was thinking about the older generation. He's thinking about the younger generation. And it kind of works both ways. It's just about people missing one another and being far apart, but somehow connecting. I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting. You were talking earlier on about kind of knowing when a song's a song and when it's just a thing that you're working on. And I'm really interested to talk a little bit about the process. And I guess, first of all, was there a point for you that it kind of became clear to you that maybe songwriting was the key thing more than being an instrumentalist? Or did you kind of have a point when you sort of thought, I think what I am is a songwriter?
Well, I evolved from being an instrumentalist to being, I used to be an instrumentalist when I started out, who contributed vocals now and then, background vocals, harmony vocals, and then the occasional lead in a band, singing lead on a song. And then I became the singer in Hot Rise, and I learned more about the power of singing and what the singer's role is. It's the focus of so much of the music, the vocal, the song being about something really kind of ties everything together. Bluegrass has a lot to do with picking, and everybody gets a chance to kind of play some stuff and express themselves that way. But the singer becomes, your role is really, really hyper important. And if you don't have good singing in a band, you don't have the appeal that you would if you did have it. So I learned about what songs, why I liked certain songs as I went and became a lead singer, and that helped me to write songs. And writing songs was going to be another way to keep the profile up and sort of make the group valuable to the audience. A lot of this, everything I've ever done with music, any kind of thing other than playing the guitar or the mandolin or fiddle, whatever, it's all directed at enabling myself to keep playing. I just feel comfortable doing it. I feel comfortable singing. I feel comfortable playing. I feel I'm less shy. I feel like I can be myself a little more in front of people. And writing songs became a deeper way to express myself. So, I realized that singing was more important than the playing after a while. And then as I went, I realized that writing was one thing that was my own, that wasn't anybody else's. And it felt like it was really important to continue that. People seemed to like it, so I felt like this is more my role than anything else. And as my physical abilities diminish as I get older, the singing still, it emerges even further to the front. It pushes the singing and the songwriting especially to the front. In other words, if I can write a song and just record it so that people can hear it and experience it, I don't really have to perform it as much. I'm not going to be around forever, but if I can get some good songs and put them out there, that's the best use of my time.
And I get the definite sense that just through what you write in the book about songwriting, that the process and just kind of that analogy that people always use about fishing and songwriting, about like turning up every day and sitting by the river, and process has become a big part of what you do as a songwriter. Did that evolve over the years? Did it used to be a case of just sort of sit down and play and see what came out? Because it certainly seems like it's something that is woven through your life now.
Well, it used to be, I used to worry that I wasn't ever going to write another song again. And, and I would worry that if I had a good one, I would worry that I couldn't come up with one that was as good as the last one. And then after enough times of good things coming up and things happening sort of naturally, I stopped worrying about it as much, and kind of letting it happen. And it's really interesting because it's still, John Prine would say, the last thing I really want to do is write a song. I'll do anything to avoid it. I'll do anything, but when one comes, it's really a great thing. And so, I feel like the process is just being comfortable with it. That has been really the key in the last 20 years, is just let it happen, open yourself up to the possibilities, and make the time for it. And then something will happen. And I used to, I would go for a year or so and I go, geez, I haven't written anything, I really need to get down to write some songs. And then I would kind of go, well, I wonder what I have written. And I go looking back and go, geez, I got this, that, and the other thing. And I said, here's a thing that could be finished that was actually pretty good. And I realized that, I was doing it all along. And it kind of taught me not to worry about it so much. But, I try to, in the book a little bit, I try to talk about keeping organized. And, if you're a writer, you want to measure your progress and keep stuff in the same place so that you can find it, I still struggle with that, keeping things organized. But, it's, I've got file cabinets and I've got hard drives and I've got this stuff there. If I really need to comb through it, I can find it.
Sometimes, I've done not songwriting, but quite a bit of writing over time. And sometimes just the act of writing something in a notebook or playing it or reading it into the voice memos in your phone or whatever, just sometimes the act of making a note of something makes it stick in your brain and makes it real in a way that other things don't necessarily. Yeah.
Well, Tom Paxton says that, and I think I quoted him. He says that the very act of putting the pencil to the paper sort of wakes up the engine room in the brain and says, okay, we're supposed to give you the signals that you're looking for here. And it does sort of set things in motion. And so that's why, the voice memo on the smartphone is really a wonderful new tool. I used to always have little notebooks in my shirt pocket, and a pen close by that I could jot ideas down. And I kind of save them in a certain place and I go sift through them later. But yeah, it's attention and intention combined that sort of sets the thing in motion.
And Tom is somebody that you've been doing quite a bit of co-writing with recently. And co-writing is a really interesting thing because particularly in the country world, sort of the bluegrass world, like co-writing is a thing. People arrange to sit down and write a song, and it's on the one hand such a structured thing, and on the other hand, just a meeting of two different kinds of creativity. And have you always enjoyed co-writing?
It makes me nervous at times with the people that I haven't written with, and I was when I started pursuing a solo record deal in Nashville, I was encouraged to co-write and to come to Nashville and co-write with certain people. The record label that I signed with sort of suggested various people. And, you know, it was, there were times when nothing happened, and it would be really embarrassing. And there's other times when really good things happened. And so I kind of learned to cultivate those relationships. And to sort of, if I heard somebody's songs and I liked them, and I thought, wow, that's really a great expression and something that I wish I could tap into, then I would pursue those relationships when I could. And so over the years, you kind of learn what works and what won't. You know, people will ask if I want to co-write, and I'll usually say, yeah, I'm open to any possibilities. There's certain places that I keep going back to, people I keep going back to, and certain things I just don't pursue because I'm not really I don't find the common bond from what I know of the other person's music. And it's nothing against them. It's just it doesn't feel like it's going to work. So co-writing is a funny thing. You have to trust one another, and you have to give each other your respect, and not limit things. It's also good to be able to say, no, I don't want it to say that. I don't want it to go there. And to be able to say that to your partner and say, yeah, let's don't go there. Let's go here, because there's plenty of other directions we can go. And to keep it going and keep it flowing. You know, Jason Carter came over. He wants to write songs for his new record, and I think he's got it all pretty much written, and he's recorded a lot of it now. But he came over one day, and he'd written a song about gambling, and he thought, well, maybe I could write another song about gambling. So he and I got together, we talked about stuff, and we ended up with this song that we both really like. And we got together again. I had just gotten that song's called Leadville. He's recorded it. And then a month or so later, he came around, and I didn't know what we were going to write about, but right before he showed up, Jan had ordered something from Amazon, and it came in a giant box. It was like the size of a refrigerator. And I thought, my God, what have you ordered? And it was something, whatever it was something small. A smaller box was inside it, and a smaller box inside that box. But I just had the lyric. I said, well, I sold my shack. I'm leaving today. I'm moving into an Amazon box. And so we wrote a song that day called Amazon Box. That's really silly, but I really like it. And then we got together with Pat McLaughlin and wrote again, and I'm not sure anything really happened. We wrote a song, and it's sitting there, but I don't know if it's going to get recorded. It's not as direct as the other two. So you just have to, but I don't want to give up on that. Writing with Jason was good. He knows good songs, and he's a good musician, and he kind of, you're kind of helping people. It's like being a record producer too. It's a little bit, some of the songwriting, sometimes co-writing. Like in Nashville, a lot of the experienced songwriters will work with a new artist, and they might contribute 2 or 3 lines, and then they become the co-writer, and it becomes their song. And if that song's successful, then they get back together with you, and you write it, and you're all both happy about that, to do it again and try to make that happen again. And but a lot of times you get with somebody that's brand new, they have something. They might not be as experienced, have as much of a track record, but a lot of times they'll have something new, and that'll really, kind of excite the guy like me who's a little more experienced. I used to be the one that didn't know what he was doing. I still don't really know what I'm doing, but I can act like I know, and I can be relaxed about it.
Maybe that's part of it with anything you do in life, is that you reach a point, like you were saying before, with the writing, you become comfortable with the fact that maybe something's not going to happen, and that it probably is, something gets out of the way and allows things to happen when you do that. Yeah,
I mean, that happens on stage as a performer, and it happens as a writer. If you don't expect anything, and any positive thing is a dividend, and you just kind of treat it as such, and I keep looking for the path that's seems like the next best step, and you get somewhere. It's amazing.
It was interesting you were talking about writing with Jason there, and sort of didn't know what you were going to write about. And one thing I was sort of struck by, just reading through the notes with the songs in the book, is just kind of the range of inspiration for things, like the idea of Nellie Kane having some roots in a movie, and Brother Wind being inspired by elements of a novel, and a song like The Anchor, of our newsreader, and this, the range of different inputs that result in these outputs is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Hanging around with Mark Knopfler was really instructive. I knew some of his hit songs to sing along, and then I got the opportunity to perform in his band as a substitute for John McCusker. And I got to, learning these songs and tapping into the lyrics, and I realized he can write about anything. He writes about about the guy who started McDonald's, or about shipbuilders. He wrote a song about guys that salvage old ships when they run them into the beach and just kind of let them go. It's like anything is subject, and it's all fair game. And if you can make a sound and some words that interest you, then you're starting, and you can continue. And it's I don't know. It's like I'm fascinated by it. The mystery of it is it continues, and it's always a challenge, and yet it's always comforting to come up with something. I wrote a song with Jan and I wrote a song with Tom Paxton called "Sipping on a Straw," and I just wrote those words down. Said "sipping on a straw." To me, it conjured up somebody slowly having a drink, probably at a bar. So it became a song about what you see in a bar while you're sipping on a straw. And I really liked the song, and but all I needed to do was just write down those 4 words, and then get together with 2 other people and just talk it through and play the guitar, and kind of just sort of starts coming together.
And one of the songs, it's really interesting actually, "Can You See Me Sister," which has a kind of historic kind of origin in terms of it's based on the your imaginings of an encounter between 2 real people, and on the record, I think it's on "He Walked On," isn't it? And it's you have a spoken intro to the song that kind of explains the context to it and what the setup of it is, right, which sort of feels so integral to it that I have a friend who does that song, and he does the spoken intro as part of the song, and yet you don't recount that bit in the book, which is fascinating.
Well, there was a space concern. I think it's on the lyric page, maybe. I don't recall, but it's not in the transcription with the music. It's spoken word, and there's a little bit of music under it. The spoken word part is in 3/4, and the song is in 2/4, I guess. So rather than take that space up, I just put the lyrics down and told people to listen to the source recording. It's funny that also the songs. I I'm undecided on whether the introduction to a song is always necessary. And that one, it seems necessary. It seems, like you say, integral to the song because of its historical content. And yet, I wonder what it would be like. I've never really sung the song without the introduction. I wonder what it would be like, And I think it would be interesting to, and I've yet to try that, to just sing the song and see what people think. I think, I know a lot of people, like I was at Telluride a couple of years ago. Tyler Childers was on stage, and I have a friend from West Virginia that lives out there, and we were listening to him. And he said, "Oh, this is about the Dolly Sods. This song he's singing is about the Dolly Sods Wilderness area, which is a place I'd been to in West Virginia." And but listening to the song, I didn't get that at all. And I thought, wow, that's great to know that. But obviously the song you don't need to know that. It works on its own. So, it's the introductions to songs and the little blurbs about how I wrote the song. That's a thing that songwriters do. On their show, they're kind of storytellers. So you're kind of talking a little bit about where it comes from and how you stumbled on the song. On the other hand, it doesn't probably really need all that. Bob Dylan doesn't talk on stage, and people like it. They love his songs and they revere them. He's one of the greats, of course. Not all of us can get away with that.
Well, it's interesting because you sort of talking in the book about part of your education and learning as a songwriter was to sing other people's songs, to kind of get under the skin of them and find out what you like and what you don't. And obviously, Bob is somebody you've done a whole record of his songs, so there must be plenty in there for you to have learned over the years.
Yeah, I mean, people like Randy Newman, Bob Dylan. Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, John Prine, they're like, you always want to hear what they have to offer. They're just, we all look up to them. And you don't, it's funny hanging around with somebody like that. If you see, I would see John Prine in the supermarket, see him at a gig or a festival or something, but, at a party around Nashville. And he's one of those guys that you look up to so much that you're kind of intimidated by them. And I get to record with them and everything, but it's they're sort of part of the woodwork, the things you stand on. We all kind of learn from those greats. And so anytime they come up with something, I pay attention. Dylan's, what's his next record going to be? Who knows? He's really gone into a new phase. Paul Simon, he and Dylan do these kind of epic poet things now. It's amazing. They don't have any limits on it, and they're just kind of in full flower in their later age. And it's all those guys are things that they do things that I aspire to. But I aspire to what they do, and maybe I forget that they don't do what I do. I don't do what I'm never going to do what they do, but maybe I can do what I do better. I saw Rodney Crowell and Sean Camp at a concert for the local public radio station. We stood for the whole show. The place was packed. And I left that concert hall thinking, man, I really want to get up on my game. These guys are really on it. They kind of inspire you to go on and try to do better.
There's a lovely phrase in the book. You say, it's as if I've been building a platform over the years that now feels strong enough to stand on, which is a lovely way of looking at that sort of progression?
Yeah, I mean, you start out, you kind of go, okay, I'm going to use this Hank Williams song and this Bill Monroe song and this Roger Miller song and this Bob Dylan song, and then I'm going to have a few songs of my own in this set that I'm going to play for people. And I'm going to try to shape it in a way that my song kind of doesn't pale in comparison, pace it in such a way so that better songs are toward the end, that kind of thing. But, as the years went on and I wrote more and more songs and put out more and more records, it's great to sing other people's songs, but that's become more the exception nowadays. And it's finally feels like there's enough there for me to just kind of rely on my own work, my own original songs to put on a concert. And it is a lifelong process and project. It feels good. Feels good to look at all these songs and go, okay, there is something I can stand on. And it's not the best house on the block, but it's, I'm proud of it.
Well, and it's your house and you built it.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, it's just, it's a wonderful collection of songs. And it's really interesting just hearing your thoughts on the writing and the singing and kind of looking at them together and, thinking of some of the ones I don't know as well. I need to go back and listen to. And it's a lovely collection, and it's really been a joy getting to chat to you about it. Thank you.
Well, it's been an interesting project because I'm paying attention to the older stuff, and I'm getting ready to do a concert week after next where I do 20. I think I got 24 songs I'm going to sing, and trying to pick from the the breadth of my career of mostly 40 some years of writing songs. And it's really kind of I'm assessing myself and I'm not wrapping things up. I'm kind of regrouping around the songs again. And it's kind of interesting. I'm finding new things about them. And so it's I feel real lucky that I've got this. And Harry Smith was a great collector that came out with the anthology of American folk music, and it turned people on. He was a collector of all kind of things apparently, and he would make these art installations at his house and arrange photographs in different collages and things, and make films. And making this songbook is kind of a collection, and maybe it says something that no one of the songs say, and maybe the sequence of them says something. It's a mystery I'm going to keep diving into in the coming months.
Well, it must be a funny process, because there must be a certain amount of unavoidable sense of like legacy and kind of like a contribution you've made to songwriting, but at the same time, it must just inspire you to write more songs.
That's really the best thing, is it shows me that I can keep doing this, and I should keep doing this, and maybe I can get it right. That's the other thing. I keep trying to get it right. Every song, I'm trying to get it more right than the last one. And, the process of assembling these songs and kind of making a finite collection of 40, it threatens, I threaten to take myself a little too seriously. So I try to get past that pretty quick. I'll be glad to get this book out and go on and not dwell on it too much.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about your music, is that it is able to say some meaningful things about the world, and yet it's all held pretty lightly as well. There's always space for wit and for not holding on to things too tightly.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much for the compliment. That's ultimate compliment. Thank you. My favorite writers are that way.
Yeah, to have a firm conviction that you are willing to hold lightly as an extraordinary thing to achieve. It's been great chatting to you again, Tim. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
All right, Matt, thank you very much, and good luck with everything.
Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.